What does this all mean? Let's bring in Richard P. Allan, Professor of Climate Science at Reading University. Richard, thank you very much for being with us. Unprecedented rain then in Nevada. Clearly, are we looking at climate change? Is this why we should be concerned that Burning Man has been so badly affected?
Well, I mean, it's not unprecedented to get these type of events happening in the desert. But of course, when they do occur, they can lead to flooding because the ground is dry and encrusted. The water cannot drain into the soil and it flows off as runoff, and it creates these terrible muddy conditions. So part of this was bad luck, that this unusual event coincided with a time when there were tens of thousands of people at this festival. But when you consider it as part of the pattern of the intense and severe flooding going across the world, you've seen the recent reports from Spain, of course, Turkey, also India and Pakistan. Part of this pattern is consistent with more intense rain in a warmer world.
So should we be more concerned about what's happened in Spain, the flooding we've seen there?
Well, I think so, in the sense that it's highly unusual for you to get tens of thousands of people in the desert, and it happened to coincide with a storm, which is unusual and created difficulties. But yeah, we've seen some terrible conditions in Spain, Turkey, but many other locations across the world this year and last. And what we do know, based on fairly simple physics, is that as we pump more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, that traps more heat, that warms the atmosphere can hold more moisture. So when it does rain heavily, the intensity of that rain is even stronger. So when you do get flooding associated with this heavy rain, it's even more severe and creates these situations we're seeing ever more commonly across the world, damaging infrastructure and people's livelihoods.
Indeed, while we're seeing all this destruction, this lunchtime here in Paris, I was sat on a terrace. Lucky me, I realise I'm privileged in many respects, with friends, having lunch in the sun. It was incredibly warm. They were complaining that autumn wasn't starting. Again, is this something we should be concerned about?
Well, it's not to be concerned about to get weather. We always have the weather. But when we do get extreme weather, climate change is making these extremes even more severe. So when we get a heat wave, it will be even hotter. We've already seen terrible wildfire conditions when you get intense heat, but also extra drying of the ground because of this more thirsty atmosphere. And when we get intense rainfall, we get even more heavier downpours and even more severe flooding. So it's part of a pattern. Until we rapidly and massively cut our greenhouse gas emissions, these extreme weather events are only going to get worse. But the good news is we can stop them getting worse by cutting greenhouse gas emissions from particularly burning fossil fuels.
Okay, it's up to us to make that change, and the governments and industry, but everybody basically. Richard, we're getting the message. Thank you so very much indeed. As if that message wasn't already clear enough, because we've spoken before, haven't we? Thank you so very much indeed. Richard P. Allan from Reading University, Professor of Climate Science there. Thank you for giving us your sense and your take on what is going on. And I think the message is very clear. We need to change how we live, how we do things. And it's not happening quickly, is it?